building community with people so that they are more connected to God. If our relationship brings us closer to God, that's the goal. That should be the goal.
Welcome to the Legacy and Light podcast, where we are creating a culture of community by sharing stories of what God has done. I'm Allie Maddox, your host for today's episode, and I'm super excited for our guest today. I want you to welcome Diana Navarre. Thank you so much for being on the podcast and just telling me your story and letting us get to know you a little bit.
Oh, yeah. It's my pleasure. It's always fun to talk to people. That's kind of one of my passions, is talking to people, getting to know people.
So tell me a little bit about you, and where would we most likely see you serving around the church?
I've been a Christian since I was raised in a Christian family. So just raised up knowing Jesus, doing all the church things, all the things. I had parents who were very involved, not just nominal Christians, but really involved people. I went to Bible college right out of high school. And I think it was during that time that I had claimed my own faith in Jesus and realized, yes, in college. So started serving him, married a pastor. And so I was a pastor's wife for 50 years. I mean, I'm still his wife.
Sure.
But we're not pastoring right now, which has been really kind of strange since we moved to Lubbock, is when he stopped pastoring and we started getting involved in churches, and that was really hard. And we kind of had a connection here, kind of hesitated to go to such a big church. But we found that once we started attending, there were so many areas that we could serve in, and that's where our heart is, to serve people. So the very first thing we started was serving at the Dream Center. We do service Saturday, one Saturday a month, and we started doing that. And then I got involved in Operation Christmas Child. So that's now a passion for me every year to do that. So we just always look for ways to serve. We am greeting, whatever we can do to serve. Just recently, we've been serving a lot on Wednesday nights with the meal. But
so grateful for you.
But we recently stopped that because we have partnered with Landon to do the Re-Engage program. Sorry.
Okay.
So we just started doing Re-Engage. So on Wednesday nights, that's what we're doing now. We're a lead couple for the Re-Engage program.
Could you, just a little bit, because I do want to get into everything that you just said, but could you kind of tell us what is Re-Engage?
Yes, Re-Engage is a program for married couples. You don't have to be having problems in your marriage or struggling, but we all can learn new things and ways to treat each other better, to help each other more. So it's a program for married couples to go through to learn more about themselves and their marriage, and how to strengthen that in the Lord.
Also, I'm going to let you know that I cry all the time.
Oh, good, because I do too. So if you do, I will.
So even just talking about pouring into marriages.
Yes.
I think that is so important.
Oh, I do too. It's like a passion for us. We've done this several other churches that we've been in, not Re-Engage, but other programs. Mm-hmm. And I just think it's so important, because I remember when we were newly married and younger, we went through several times of struggle in our marriage, and we found programs that helped us to reconnect and to get closer to the Lord, because truly that's the secret of any marriage, is each person being closer to the Lord.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting that, I don't know if it's just, I'm sure it is, our human nature, that you can hear that, before you get married and you think that you know what that means. And then you get married and it's, oh, that's actually really, really, really important and kind of the only way to get through, like to make this work.
Oh, yeah. One of the things that I say often when I'm introducing myself or something is I've been happily married for 40 years, but I've been married for 55. Mm. And it's not the yearly struggle. It's not a whole year or 5 years of struggle. It's 3 good days and 4 bad days, or 2 good weeks and a bad week. It's so everybody struggles with that. And we just want to help people know that the solution in marriage, like in every aspect of our life, is Jesus. Man. And you getting closer to Jesus makes you a better person. Therefore, you're a better wife or husband.
No, that's wonderful. I feel like maybe we're turning a corner in this generation of being okay with things being a little more difficult and calling for help and trying to get outside wisdom on things that we're struggling with. The re-engage isn't necessarily for people that their marriage is on the rocks, Right. It's just before it gets to those points, you're learning how to work together through Jesus. Right. But I feel like so many of us have maybe felt, I don't know if shame is the word, that if your marriage is struggling or if something's happening, don't call for help. Just try to work through it and figure it out on your own. But that's not how we are meant to be as humans and Christians.
I think you're exactly right, because what God wants is us to help each other. And that's been truly my calling from a long time ago. I mean, I can't remember, probably in the 80s was when I decided or discovered that my calling from God was to help Christians. Most people, or a lot of people, think you have to go out and win everybody or, bring people to the Lord. And that is important. I'm not saying that. But I think because of the way I was placed with being a pastor's wife and in the church and everything, that God showed me that my calling was to talk to other people and Christian people, because we all need each other. We need other Christians. And if we don't have that, then we flounder around by ourselves, and we do get into shame and other bad feelings about ourselves, when really, when you share your hard times, your good times, all the times with people, you find out that we're all the same. We all struggle.
Yeah.
There's no shame in struggling.
In our home group, it's a culture of confession. So we have a smaller home group, and it's people that we are getting to know really, really well, and you're kind of laying it all out on the table. We do, how are you feeding your flesh? How are you feeding your soul? And how are you feeding others? Those are our main 3 questions, and we really not focus on, but we do get in on, okay, like, what do we need to confess to each other this week? And that holds each other accountable. But it's really hard in the beginning. I remember when we started it, David and I felt so kind of scared in a way of, like, if these people know my deepest, darkest everything, what are they going to think or whatever? And it's like, that's how sin festers, is by hiding it, and it grows and grows. And when you bring it into the light, that's when the Lord is going to use these people to hold you accountable and to help you walk through those things. Absolutely. It feels so hard. The beginning.
It is hard. It is hard to share ourselves, because Satan is constantly telling us that we're bad and that we're ugly and that we shouldn't share those things because nobody's going to like us. And that's the exact opposite of what God wants. He tells us to confess to one another. How many places, how many churches do you know where that really happens? Right. Not very many. And it happens in small groups, much better than it does.
Yeah.
We can't come here on Sunday morning with 2,000 people and confess things. So we have to be involved in small groups of some sort. And re-engage is just one of those. Other small groups can also foster that same thing. But yes, being honest with another human is so healing for our souls.
I love that. I love your heart for that. it's something that David and I have been really struggling with the past year of just how do we create that more. So we haven't talked about this yet.
No.
So the fact that this is something that is so heavy on both of our hearts, it's really exciting for me, and I can't wait to go home and tell David all about it. I'm like, Dana was talking about all this. I'm so excited. But because it's literally what we've been praying so much about for the past year is stuff like this. And how do we get more small groups to be on board with this? How do we get more people in different generations to be on board with this? A small core group of people that know you really well, that care about you,
Yes.
and that you're bringing these things to them to get wisdom and accountability.
It's been a long process of bringing that into the church. But I think that's where we kind of jokingly talked about how I usually am the one asking questions. Mm-hmm. And that's why. Because when I meet new people, I want to find out where they are, where they're coming from, what their needs are, how do they need to connect to God. How can I be the one that helps them or anybody? I can put them in touch with somebody that can help that need. It doesn't have to be me, but that's my desire. Yeah, I just want to help people connect. So in order to do that, you have to be willing to sit down one-on-one or one with three, something like that, and ask questions. And find out what is really going on in your life. Yep. Because if you're not sharing what's really going on, you're not being authentic. It's who you are. So that's really my passion, discipling other people and finding, sometimes I call it finding friends, but it's not really just friends for the friend's sake.
Sure.
It's building community. With people so that they are more connected to God. If our relationship brings us closer to God, that's the goal. That should be the goal as a Christian.
Yeah. I just think of how many marriages could have been saved or helped along the way if they had had people that were really rooting for them and knew what was happening.
Yes.
In that without hiding.
Yes, because we feel like when we're hiding, we feel like we're the only one this has ever happened to. And I would be so embarrassed for Allie to know that I had an affair one time or whatever. Yeah. I didn't, but I'm just saying that you would judge me instead of reaching out to me and helping me grow closer to God through that. Yeah. But re-engage really is something that does exactly that. It doesn't matter what your story is. If you will be honest, you will grow as a couple if you do a re-engage.
Yeah. I'm so excited about that. And so
we have got to bring more things into the church that connect people, and we're connecting them to each other, but we're connecting them to God and bringing them together that way.
Yeah.
There just has to be more small things.
So David grew up in a really small church, really small, tiny little church. And I asked him, I was like, is this just like a big church problem? And he was like, absolutely not. We did not do this at my tiny little church of 30 people.
Right.
The whole town has 1,000 people in it. And he was like, I don't know anything about any of them other than like the gossip that you hear around town. But they weren't building this kind of community. And so that kind of helped me to... Because sometimes I'm just like, is it just because we have there's 2,000 people that come here and you can't see anybody or whatever? And he said, no, you need the small, even in that, being really intentional with your small, tight-knit community.
I think that's the key right there. What you said is being intentional. Being intentional with your friendships, with your, your friendship isn't just so that you can go out and gossip about somebody or go out and find out the gossip or whatever. The friendship has to be about connecting and building a relationship with not just that person, but with Jesus in the center of that person. And whether that's one-on-one discipling or a small group like you guys have or a larger group like Re-Engage, we have to learn to get honest with who we are. where we've been, where we are right now, and what we need, how God can change us. He can change anything about us. And it doesn't stop. Like, I am still learning things. Well, we went through just a little honesty here. We went through a marriage crisis about 15 years ago. And I looked at God and said, I am too old for this. This should not be happening in my life right now. And I learned so much walking with God through that and how it changed me. If I hadn't had people in my life that I could be honest with and that then brought me to where God wanted me to be in that, I wouldn't have changed. I would have become bitter and closed off. It doesn't matter what age you are, is what I'm trying to say. You think all your problems are going to happen when you're young, but life all the way through is filled with problems. God says that in his word. And he's there for us through every problem because he has so many things that he wants to change in us. And just saying, I hear people say, well, I was just made that way. I was just born that way. It doesn't matter how you were born. We're all born sinners, but we can change when we devote ourselves to God.
Man, there's something in me, I think a long time ago that I was like, if I could just get through this part of life, like right now we have little kids and it feels like that's so stressful and so hard and your marriage goes through so much stuff because you're just like, for the first time, kind of pulled in all these different directions and everyone needs you and you're like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So you think once they're older, everything's going to be better, or once you get to a certain point in your life, once you retire, once you do these things, that it'll just be easier. And it's just, like you're saying, not true.
No.
And so knowing that in the beginning, like this is a daily commitment to each other, to the Lord.
And to his word.
Yeah.
You have to be in the word every day. And not just haphazardly in the word, but have a plan, maybe several plans. I'm not a very routine kind of person.
Okay.
So I'll start a plan and then that'll kind of fall by the wayside and then I'll start another plan. So it's always having something, some way to get into God's word. People tell me often that they don't have time. And I want to say and do say fairly often, how much time are you watching Netflix? How much time are you scrolling through Facebook? Set aside some of those times for God's word. And it doesn't have to be 3 hours a day in God's word, but it has to be every day for 5 minutes to 30 minutes. His word will change you if you are there every day.
I love that. 2021 was the year that David and I got really serious about whatever time we needed to wake up. We were going to wake up early before Millie. We just had Millie at the time. But because when she was up, I was a new mom. I didn't know how to handle. Now they could be crawling all over me and I'd be like, you're fine. I'm going to remember.
Yeah.
At the time, I needed quiet. I needed space. So we got up at 5 a.m. every morning just to make sure that it happened.
Yes.
And that was the year. I feel like we were preparing for battle in a way, but a battle we didn't really know was happening. That was the year that his mother died. So we were so steady, and it's like we had been preparing for that
without
knowing. And so I get chills kind of thinking about it now because we talk about it quite often of just what a blessing it was for God to put that fire in our hearts then to be like, I have to do it. I have to be close to him.
Right.
And then devastation happens. And it's not that it made it less painful, but we could ride that wave much easier.
Well, because you had God with you. You knew you had God with you.
Didn't feel far at that point.
Yeah. You knew God was right there.
Yeah. Praying that something devastating doesn't happen to you, but you don't know what life is going to bring you and what God's going to put you through.
Absolutely. You don't. You have no idea. And it sometimes it's not even within your family that something will happen, but maybe other people close to you. So you have no control over what's going to happen and what's going to come into your life. But when you're walking with Jesus through all of that, you will get through it. He walks through it with you.
Mm-hmm.
You won't be stopped there. You won't be stagnant. And I know you've probably seen people who are just bitter and angry at they're in their later years and they're bitter and angry. And a lot of that, sometimes that is because they've never walked through those things with God. And it's really sad to see that, because God is there for every single person, but we just have to open ourselves up to Him.
Be vulnerable.
Yes. Be vulnerable to Him and to others. Yeah.
The term fully known, there's been some songs that I think Torrin Wells or something did one. And I just remember not really understanding that until the last few years of, it is all of the parts that I don't necessarily want anyone to see. And especially I don't know, sometimes I have been working through this of an interesting relationship with God of trying to hide things from Him instead of just laying it out for Him and saying, I need help. Please help me get through these parts of my life. And the pride is a big thing for me. And so putting that at His feet every single day. But you have to be okay. You have to acknowledge those things about yourself to let God in to remove them. And you can be free from things, but I think as long as you're consistent and bringing that to Him, because I know that if I talked to my home group about this a little while ago, but the week that happened from Christmas to New Year's, I don't know what happened there, but I was not consistent and I felt it.
Yeah.
I felt attacked. I felt more irritable. I felt scared about things. And it was David was like, well, have you been spending any time with Jesus? And I was like, I mean, I thought I was, but I don't think I was. I think I was just reading it to read it instead of listening back and hearing what He was trying to tell me in those moments.
And it's fully known by God and fully known by a few other people.
Right.
You're not going to be fully known by all 2,000 people in your church.
Correct.
But you can be fully known by your small group. Everybody needs a core group that they hang out with and that fully knows who they are.
Which is so hard.
It is so hard. It is very hard. And, I really think doing it at your age is easier than even when you get older, moving. Yeah. Moving here. And we didn't know anybody in Lubbock when we came here. And that was hard. It's hard now you're emptying out 50 years of stuff to the new people that are in your life to get them,
Yeah, can see how that, yeah.
And so, and then it's that trust. You've got to find the people that you trust. Some people just, I don't know. I have found people that are so full of themselves that they don't have time to listen to you. They don't have time to hear you. They don't even want to know about you because they're so full of themselves. And that's sad. But you just kind of have to find the people. You have to go and find the people. And and those people that I've met, I've still tried with them. But there's only so much you can do. You just pray. I keep praying for them. They're on your permanent prayer list.
Right.
Right. Let them open their hearts, God, to what they need. Because it's interesting that you can see the need in somebody else's life, but sometimes they don't allow you to help. And we don't want to be those people that don't allow other people to help us.
It does feel like maybe being in the pastoral realm, that sometimes that is harder, being able to be vulnerable back.
It was so interesting to me when I was young and a pastor's wife, and I went to a retreat, and it was a ladies' retreat, and that was when those were kind of new. And we got in a small group, and this lady said, well, I can't tell you anything. You're not the same as everybody else. You don't know what we struggle with, because you're a pastor's wife and you're different. And I said, no, I'm the same. Pastors' wives and pastors are people. They're people with all the same flaws that we have. If anybody out there is thinking that the pastors or the pastors' wives are different and are protected or they're super spiritual, they're people. Most of the time, they are in the positions they're in because they've given their lives to God and they've spent a lot of time with Him. And so, yes, sometimes they are closer, but they're still people and they still deal with all the same things that all people deal with.
Yeah.
There's nothing new under the sun.
Which is so funny that every generation thinks that they're the first to walk through something.
Yes.
And maybe some things are different with either technology or just the way things are. But I feel like the core issues are normally the same.
Yes, I would agree. And there's a lot of things that your generation deals with that we never had to deal with because of all the new technology and the things that I have been so glad. I watch my children and grandchildren raising kids and think, I'm so glad I don't have to raise kids with what is out there now. And many of the young people that I see in this church is mostly what I know now, are doing such an excellent job at that. So it's very exciting to see God working in the young families in this church.
We have quite a few of those.
Yes, we do. We do, and that's such a blessing. It's so good, and I know that there are probably some out there that are struggling, but I think that the church is continuing to bring new programs that will help those who struggle. So if there is anybody that's struggling with marriage or children or anything, go to one of the pastors or pastors' wives and say, I wish we had a program about this. I'm not speaking for them, but I'm sure they would try to bring something to the church, just like we did Reengage.
So if anyone is interested in something like Reengage, will there be more groups popping up soon?
Reengage is a 14-week program. So this will go through the end of April.
Okay.
And after that, we hope to have more people that are willing to lead groups. And we have to have a leader for every 5 couples. So yes, the more leaders we can get, the more we can give access to everybody.
Okay.
So I believe it is coming. This is our pilot program for Southcrest.
The waters.
Yeah, testing the waters to make sure that it really is something that we want to do. But so far, we really like the program. And we will get feedback from those who are in it. And we'll see. We will definitely be opening it up to more people if it is successful.
Okay.
This is the first time.
I'm super excited about it. And I can't wait to hear how it goes after the 14 weeks and just like what our plans are moving forward. Is there anything else that you would like to touch on before we wrap up? I've had a wonderful time talking to you and just getting to know your heart for discipling couples. It's like I said in the very, very beginning, I think it's so important, and I cannot wait to see what God does with this mindset.
Yes, me too. But I also want to encourage people to volunteer in the church.
Yep.
Operation Christmas Child, all the things that I have a passion for. Even the Dream Center Service Saturday is what it was called. When we came to this church, we just saw it in the bulletin. We weren't even members yet. And we said, let's go see what this is about. Because we have run programs before for distributing food to others. And Dream Center does an excellent job. So that's why Southcrest partners with them. And we provide the breakfast on that Saturday and the workers for that Saturday. And we usually have about 20 to 25 people. It's the first Saturday of every month.
Volunteering? Wow.
Yeah. So I would just encourage people to find ways to volunteer in the church. One of the other programs that I volunteer with that I love is the visiting shut-ins. Those are people that are in the last years of their life probably and need to not be forgotten.
Mm-hmm.
So it's something you can kind of do as a one-on-one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Who can they talk to if they're interested in things like that?
Yeah, that's a good question. Call the church office.
Okay.
They'll know who,
Which direction?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because everything you want to volunteer for is kind of a different direction.
Yeah.
Because we are so big.
Mm-hmm.
But the church office always knows exactly who to connect you to
Okay.
in however you want to volunteer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for being here and spending your time.
Yeah.
Liana,
My pleasure.
I guess it's not really a snow day, but school was delayed.
Yeah.
I'm going to call this.
It was a very cold and windy day.
Very cold.
Yeah. And I was glad to be here. So thank you for asking me.
We'll see y'all next time.